State's is good. Iowa's is good. Oregon's, I think, is probably better than that state up above you. So scroll down, click on gardening, lawn, and landscape, and out flows just articles, articles, articles. There's also on that page, ask an expert. If you are having problems, if you've got, you can download JPEGs if you want to take photos of some disease that's bugging you. You then also, there is a good search engine, and every page there's a search engine on the home page. So probably the quickest thing is to just plug in Master Gardeners. Just put Master Gardeners, because it's hard to, actually it was kind of hard to get to that page. Put in Master Gardeners in the search engine on this page, and up pops all your county extension offices, their addresses, their phone numbers, their emails. You can email them questions. Soil testing. I was going to put the actual URL here, and I found out, to heck with it, it's easier. University of Oregon, or Oregon State, does have its own soil testing lab. The quickest way to get to it is to Google, go back out of the site and just search Soil Testing Lab Oregon, and it up pops the Oregon State info. There's their phone number, just in case you want to shoot a picture of it or take it down. But there's a video on how to take soil testing. You get the phone number and the email for the soil lab. Soil tests run anywhere from $15 to $25. But here's what you get back. You get a full report on your true pH, which is so important, your phosphorus and natural phosphorus and potassium, your organic content, and in filling out the PDF, you've told them what it is you plan to grow. So they will then give you fertilizer requirements if fertilizer is necessary, and really the instructions, along with a phone number and email if you have any questions, on how to turn your soil into good gardening soil. So start with, always start with Oregon State. Use your Master Gardeners, email questions. It's just a wonderful, wonderful free service. Of course, the soil test costs you a little bit, but that's what extension services are all about. Okay, brings us all the way to the last one. The number one blunder of mine, it usually surprises people. We design and plant garden beds based on flower color combinations. Now people see that and they go, well, wait a minute. You know, how is that a mistake? I mean, how else do you do it? You know, there's books written on flower color combinations, and there are, and they lead you astray. I'm interviewing an article years ago, interviewing a woman who single-handedly had created what to this day is still one of the most exquisite gardens I ever scouted and found for Better Homes and Gardens, completely done by the homeowner. Just unbelievable, up close, from afar, mid-range, spring, summer, fall, even winter. Just gorgeous. And I said to her, what are you doing? What's your secret? What do you know? She looks me in the eye, she says, I place every plant based on contrast between the size, shape, and color of the leaves. She said, color of bloom is secondary. She said to me, color of bloom is secondary. And she had nailed it right on the head. Perennials have leaves. Leaves have size, shape, color, form. It is learning to place plants so that you create subtle as well as major contrast in the foliage. You want to create tapestries of foliage contrast. Bloom color is a secondary concern. A shot of my garden, good old Oriole Marginata, Montana. The largest foliage in this area actually hangs over the tiniest foliage, heuchera. How many of you grow heuchera? Coral bells. Yeah, why? Yeah, for that little for the bloom, then comes up. I cut them down. When my heuchera start to bloom, I'm down there cutting it. I want that incredible, the peaches and burgundies and reds and all the incredible heuchera colors. Your Dan Himes, your buddy down at Terra Nova. Come on, they must be cheap out here. He's a cheap date. It's all about foliage contrast and creating portraits of not just foliage contrast, but the plant form. Bloom is nice. Bloom is good. Bloom is secondary. Don't hang your hat on bloom color combinations. Because the bloom comes and goes. Now, if it works for perennials, it works for your major stuff. It's actually a British Columbia shot, University of British Columbia Botanical Gardens, massive rhododendron there. You can tell it's a rhodie, that kind of a dirty underside of that leathery leaf. What did they plant next to it? Just the brightest little feathered, dusty little, whatever that thing is called. I forget the name of it. You probably know it. We don't grow those in Minnesota. We don't grow 15-foot rhodies in Minnesota either. But why did they put it there? Because it's just that fabulous contrast. And God, with you guys, with the colors and the conifers you guys have. I mean, remember, evergreen is a misnomer. Even in Minnesota, evergreen is light green, middle green, dark green, blue, silvery blue, yellow, red. You know, the cryptomerias, some of the things you guys can grow. It's cheating. Or now when stuff blooms, hallelujah. But again, how long does stuff bloom, particularly perennials? You know, 3 weeks. I mean, the list of perennials that blooms longer than 3 weeks is about that long. You know, I mean, this looks gorgeous when my tall phlox is in bloom. Yeah, how does it look for the 7 months out here, or the 6 months that it's not in bloom? You learn how to do this right. I don't care if nothing's in bloom. You can still create beautiful, attractive landscapes, and that is the secret. The final secret to landscape design is to place your plants based on the contrast, subtle and bold, between the size, shape, and color of the foliage, and then extra credit when you start understanding the differences in the form of the plant. That is the secret to a beautiful landscape. The secret to hanging out with me is to hang out at my world-famous website, one of the 22 years old this year, one of the oldest, most widely linked, non-commercial websites, gardening websites on the internet, good old renegadegardener.com. You go to renegadegardener.com, right on the homepage, click on, there's always an article every month, but click on the design button. Out comes a large number of articles that I've written over the years. Most of them have copious amounts of photos. There's even one on that is all alphabetical. You can scroll down one that says top 10 gardening blunders. But Sheepish in Seattle is an article I wrote for the Seattle Times that's on there. A lot of stuff. Shot in my backyard, of course, which some of you have been to in Minnesota. No. That's butchered. Come on, everyone takes that photo. You've been there. I'm standing on the railing, looking down on the famed sunken garden at Butchered Gardens, Vancouver Island. So join me anytime at renegadegardener.com. I'm awfully glad that you joined me tonight. I hope you go out and enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you. Thank you.